talk to Andy Warne. He's the CEO of the National Milk Records, and he's making his debut here. He's a Cornishman and he likes a bit of rugby. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Right, so you've done this once before, so you're obviously not very nervous, Andy.
No. I'm very keen to tell you all about it.
Brilliant. Okay, so you are the CEO of National Milk Records, which was formerly part of the Milk Marketing Board.
Yeah.
You are listed on NEX. The symbol, anyone looking up, is NMRP. Market cap of about £20 million. You recently had the interims on the 13th of February, turnover in the order of about £10.5 million, with a profit of £1 million. And this is all to do with cows.
That's it, yeah.
So what do you do for a living?
So, well, if I tell you what NMR does, so NMR, National Milk Records, the clue's in the name, milk. We work in the dairy industry. We're a service provider. And we originally came into being after the Second World War, when basically people didn't have enough to eat. Government got involved in food production and was trying to drive efficiency of agriculture. So originally part of the Milk Marketing Board, as was then, spun out in 1997 when we joined the common market, and that's when NMR was set up as a commercial company. And effectively what we do is we help the farmer improve the efficiency of his herd. So we put a milk recorder on the farm once a month. We take a yield from every individual cow at that milking and take a sample of milk at the same time. And then we combine those two numbers, so the percentage fat and the percentage protein and the yield. And in very simple terms, we tell the farmer which are the good cows and which are the bad cows. And that allows him to breed the replacement animals from the better cows in the herd. And that improves the overall genetic performance of the herd. So in time, the production and the efficiency of the farm will improve. And that's been going on since 1942.
So I've read that you've got basically 50% of the 2 million cows in the UK are tested by you, and you've got these group of self-employed milk recorders.
Yeah.
Who's more difficult to deal with, the self-employed people or the 2 million cows?
Well, the self-employed milk recorders are the absolute core of NMR. So there's 415 of them. Some of them have been with us for 30 years. And they're the people who are turning up at 5 o'clock in the morning on a cold, frosty February day. And yes, they're some of them are a little bit quirky, but they're very much the heart of the company, rurally based. And yes, we require a field force of 70 employed people who organise the milk recorders to provide the service. So we're driving something like 7 million miles a year in terms of putting milk recorders on the farm and the vans to go and collect the samples. And we're testing something like 30,000 samples of milk a day.
Wow.
So we will endeavour to get the farmer's reports back to him, the results of the milk recording, within 24 hours of the samples arriving within the laboratory.
Right. Well, the farmers have had a bloody tough time, haven't they, in terms of mad cow disease. I noticed in my notes, okay, that there's something called a John's disease, or you've called it Johne's disease off there. How serious is that?
So the dairy farm. Well, have you ever met a happy farmer in anything?
Won't comment on that.
So there'll always be something wrong. But in fact, the dairy industry is in a good place at the moment. It's coming off the back of a very low milk price. The EU about 2.5 years ago stopped quotas. Therefore, production spiked within Europe, and when production spikes, the price comes down. So the problem for dairy farmers in the last 3 years has been the very low price of milk. Now, clearly that rights itself in any sort of market, because as the price goes down, production will go down, and the price has come up to a sensible sort of level within the last 12 months. And when we look into the future, you would expect that Brexit will be relatively positive for the UK dairy industry. It's not like Christmas, but it's certain we're a net importer of dairy products, and so looking forward into the sort of the Brexit, whatever that means, the details of it clearly aren't known. we would think the dairy industry is at a positive place in the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah, you mentioned Johne's disease. With all of these diseases, so Johne's disease is a wasting disease of cattle. The fact that we're talking about it is good news, because that means that farmers are aware of it, and people like NMR are providing the services to allow farmers to get on top of it. And so the fact that Johne's disease, there's a national Johne's program, in the same way that there's a BVD, which is bovine viral diarrhea. There's lots of programs to help farmers get these diseases out of cattle. So if you take something like mastitis, which dairy cattle will get, there's been an initiative in the last 10 years to try and reduce the amount of mastitis, and we're getting on top of that. So the quantity of somatic cell counts, which is an indicator of mastitis, in the national profile is reducing. So the fact that companies like ourselves are getting involved in helping farmers drive disease control is actually improving the situation and improving the quality of milk.
Right. So how often would a cow be tested in a year?
It depends what the disease is.
But let's just say this is a normal, regular test. Of these 2 million cows, are they all tested once a year? The ones that you...
Yes. So if you take mastitis as an example, so part of the milk recording service would be to test for somatic cell counts. So effectively, that's once a month.
Right.
But with the other part of our business, which is National Milk Laboratories, we test the bulk milk. So every time a tanker visits a farm, they obviously take away, let's just say, 10,000 litres of milk. They'll also take a sample of milk. So a sample of milk is taken from every dairy farm every day, and we would collect all of those samples. So we visit every dairy every day, and we collect a bulk milk sample from every dairy farm every day. And we would test that for somatic cell count as well. So the farmer will get an indication of the amount of mastitis in the herd,
right,
potentially every day.
Right. Wow. Okay. So finally, to wrap up, I'm a shareholder.
Yeah.
Why should I consider having your shares in my portfolio? Give me a couple of reasons.
Key thing is these 6 months results, our turnover is going up, our profitability is going up, but this is the first time you as a shareholder have been able to look at our results, look at our EBITDA, multiply it by 2 and say that's what I would expect the company to earn in a year, because this is the first published results when we've been outside of the milk pension fund. So 6 months ago, we did a very big corporate transaction. We raised over £7.3 million from investors, borrowed £4.5 million from the bank, and we exited the old milk pension fund, which is the final salary scheme of the old milk marketing board. So we've now got a clean business, which is outside of the burden of that final salary scheme. And this is the first time that investors can look at the business without the noise going on in the balance sheet. And so let's just look at our EBITDA, multiply it by 2, and you would look at a business where the investors are putting a multiple of 7 to 8 times its EBITDA. Well, this business is worth more than that. So if you're an investor or somebody's looking at this business, I would say the shares are now cheap.
And finally, the outlook for 2018?
Looks good. We've got lots of growth projects. Johne's disease is a big growth area for us. We're just getting into genomics, which will be another interview.
Right.
But it's we're looking at the genetics of individual animals and being able to predict the performance of an animal from say day 6 of its life. We can take a genomic test from the animal, and then we can predict its production.
Wow.
So there's all sorts of new technology coming into this space. So, yep, very positive.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
Okay, we ran out of time. Andy Warne, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. Absolutely
you.
fascinating.